Welcome to the Bamboo Podcast, where we interview a range of guests about self-care, infant care, and relationships during the perinatal period. We are your hosts, Leah
and Kaila. In this episode, we talk to Wellbeing educator and consultant, yoga teacher and fitness coach, Kerry Spina. Kerry founded and has facilitated the Townsville-based Kids in Harmony Early Childhood Wellbeing program over the last 2 decades. She reflects on her experiences in the program, framing self-care as an internal process rather than an external activity, and improving our relationship with our bodies and instilling a healthy relationship in our children by highlighting all that our bodies enable us to sense and do. If you enjoy this episode, listen to the episode linked below where we chat to Kerry about building children's resilience and a growth mindset, the power of pause when communicating with our children, and nurturing values within the home. We hope you enjoy. Hi, Kerry.
Hi.
Kerry, to start, please introduce us to the business you've been running for the last 20 years, Kids in Harmony.
It's a family enrichment wellbeing program, which music is the pathway, and it's music, values, and relaxation. So families, so it's not always your stereotypical mother, child, can be fathers, grandparents. We had a lot more grandparents coming probably in the last 5 years. And it's an in-person experience where the caregiver comes with the child for 40 minutes and we have the outcome of nurturing well-being or creating harmony every day, which is with self, others, and environment, and what that looks like from a values lens. So for 40 minutes, it was play-based, fun, not always, because we're working with little children and babies, so, things happen. It's not always easy either. But yeah, so it was teaching those relaxation skills through music and music to movement, so that mind-body connection. And underpinning that was that goal of creating a culture of care and connection, what that looks and sounds and feels like, and using language, I suppose, in teaching in a way through the language we used, how to talk, values talk, how to emotion talk, how to emotion coach, because we didn't go, you need to this is how, this is emotion. No, we lived it. So we acknowledged the feeling, little person comes running over, bowls 10 toddlers out of the road to get to the music box because they're so excited. So we would acknowledge that, I see your enthusiasm. Next time, gently, kind hands, whatever it is. So that was just a rough example, but we'd acknowledge the value. We don't want to squash enthusiasm. This little passionate little 18-month-old with shiny eyes, and they've got no impulse control. All they can see is what they want. So through that language, and then comfort, and what comfort looks like. We're talking attachment and security, what that actually looks, sounds, and feels like to comfort emotions, discomfort. And then you've got families that attend, because we sit with discomfort in those groups. I took my son for 6 years. There were times I wanted to go to the car park and phone my husband and go, you take him next time. It was horrendous. Because, they don't come cooperating how we want them. They come as themselves. So, yeah, it's a wellbeing program, 40 minutes. We have musical instruments, lots of creative resources to explore, to move freely, to support self-care, self-love, self-worth, and then all the handouts would match that. So it might be attitude of gratitude, and 3 ways to bring that into your life. And the handouts are exceptional. They're researched back, they're well written, really easy to understand and explain, and really, like I shared, not just turning up, but ways to integrate into your everyday life, some harmony into your everyday life. And then there's all the resources that can go, the values cards that eventually came when I just wanted a non-denominational set of cards. I couldn't find any, so I made some. So yeah, it's a family enrichment wellbeing program.
And I love that it's for the family. You think you're taking your child to go and have some amazing experience, but I think as a mother, you take so much out, or a father, or whoever's attending the grandparent. And maybe that's why you ended up getting more grandparents at the end, because they took so much out of it as well.
Oh, they loved it, and they wanted that for their grandchildren, and they playing this active role in their grandchild's life. And this is something they can do together. Yeah, and I think for Kids in Harmony, the most precious thing was that people could come as they are. It was taking the pressure valve off. I just feel very proud to create a culture of care where parents knew, and grandparents and caregivers, that they could just turn up and be loved and accepted as they were on the day.
How beautiful. And doesn't everyone need that in their life? A space where they are accepted, a space where you don't need to be perfect, but you have arrived at the perfect time.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And it was exactly what I needed as a mother. That's why I created it. And now Kids in Harmony has a coaching, educational, consulting pathway for educators, schools. Yeah, so it's sort of evolved over that time, because I do a lot of work around bringing out the best in people through behaviours, but not management, through a guidance approach.
So really people could get in touch with you today and learn the program and maybe open it in their own, or their own version of it in their own small rural towns or wherever they
That's
are.
it.
And other parents can come together, and you can have those same principles if they learn from you. The things that Kids in Harmony brought to the people of Townsville can happen throughout the world.
That's it.
And your
that
website's really fantastic. The resources and blogs, it's
thank
really, really helpful for people to just go and have a look at as well.
And I think people from this are going to get your passion. You can hear it. You can see how excited you are about helping young people, helping families, and helping mothers and fathers and the whole family to be, connected. I was just thinking, us as women, we can tend to not put our own self-care first, or not give it enough time, or not think about it enough, and we're really running on empty a lot of the time.
Yes,
How did what practice have you brought into your own life, and where did you start with self-care and looking after yourself?
That's a really good question, because I think I was a late bloomer for that. My hope is that we can do self-care early. Or earlier. Like I'm mid-50s, and I just wish it didn't happen, but I wish I learned this before. And I have a lot, I'm an adult yoga teacher as well. So I've had 15 years of teaching yoga. I've got practices, but I think self-care goes a little deeper than practices, as in yoga, a bath. Beyond that, I think self-compassion. And if we look at mindset, just being okay with who we are. It's a nice place to start with self-care, that can only do your best. And
this is so good. I love this. When you were answering the question, you naturally led into what self-care I feel is, and it's self-compassion. That is the first part. If we can get that self-compassion and understanding and knowledge and feeling
that's it.
Potentially lead on to all these other things. And it doesn't need to be yoga. It doesn't need to be a gym membership. It's having a bath at night.
That's it. And it's not
reading books, because you used to love reading books, and now you're not doing that for yourself.
Yeah, and I think if it comes from an inner resource, you can always tap into it. Whereas if it becomes something and that thing is not available, we saw that in COVID. Suddenly the yoga class is cancelled and I don't have my yoga anymore, Whereas if we look at it as self-compassion, no one can take that from us. That's in here all the time. I've learned lightening up, softening up. You're okay. It's going to be okay. That's self-care to me. I also think a little, and I dare I say it, because if you've got a young children, you'll be stress tapping. But a routine, some form of routine for your brain and your body, whether that's your cleaning your teeth, what you can draw on your one daily habit and habit stack for a bit of a routine to come back to self. I don't know, something like that.
I used to book into yoga classes and all kinds of things, thinking that just being there would instantaneously make me relaxed and have self-compassion and all of these things. But it was just a flick of the fingers, because you're in that environment that's supposed to encourage those feelings. It's absolutely not the case. And definitely find that in sort of smaller or less deliberate things, like walking the dog, things that noticing the environment around you. So it really is about that internal process that's occurring far more than the activity itself.
Absolutely. That's it. And that's key, I think. That whole bigger picture of why you're doing or what you're choosing to do, or the expectation of what it's going to give you for your well-being. I know I've been there, Kaila. You know, I years ago joined many gyms, donated to many gyms, and never attended, and I don't thousands and thousands of dollars. But what, you know, it comes back to that mindful intention. What is it? I think if we talk self-compassion, for me, then intention plays a big part of that. You know, what is my intention to go to this family barbecue with my children? Or what is my intention for my yoga class? Is it to relax, or is it just to be in the moment, or is it just to stretch? Or, you know, we come back to intention from a heart perspective, we can generally meet that from an internal place, from intention.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love it.
So a little bit less about the bashing of yoga, but what are some of the benefits for parents and young children as well for engaging in yoga, maybe just in their living room? How can that have positive benefits?
Well, first of all, we can take away the word yoga, but tens of thousands of my yoga friends who teach yoga may not agree with that, you know, because yoga comes with a belief around what you think it is straight away. And I find that limiting, a bit fixed, but it is yoga. It is a modality of movement. I think anything we can do to move our bodies to promote mind-body connection is healthy for all of us. So whether that's through animals or watching, or like you said, going for a walk with the dog, if you're with the children, you come home and do a few dog stretches, or so for children and families is move your dance, you know, move, do something, especially if you're feeling in a funk, or if you're rehabilitating, if you've had surgery, or if you're postnatal and you've got a little bubba and a little toddler, you know, some gentle movement that supports you as well. Having fun with movement. It's what I love about F45, you know, like you don't know what you're going to get. You turn up and you have fun with it. And it's not heavy, although it's hard work. It's not a weight over my head, or, oh, we should do yoga, or YouTube kids yoga. There's so many opportunities to explore movement, and movement is, I think, medicine for the body and the mind. Storytelling, lots of things to bring yoga-based play, and we'll keep it playful is probably what I would suggest. YouTube, have fun. And there's some great ones, cosmic yoga, like what is available now, it's next level and it's free. So I'm not massive fan of digital learning. I'm not, but there is a place for it. And if you learn that, then my thing is anything we learn in that room was about what could be integrated into your life outside the room. So I take the same approach for wellbeing for digital learning. So I would consider a YouTube a digital learning tool. And it's interactive. So you've got the relationship, the family. So that's great. We're doing it together. And then what does that bringing some of that into our rest of our week look like without looking at the YouTube again? So what language could we bring? It might be a breath, might be bee breath. And they might be upset, or let's do some bee breath. Remember on the, you know, reference point it, give a reference. Remember, you know, that little bee got nice and calm. Let's try that one. Let's practice that. So I love integrating. There's a place for digital learning, of course. Here we are on Zoom.
No, I think that's fantastic to just encourage that connection. So for instance, my partner and I do dance lessons when we have the time, and then we'll come home and sometimes we'll just try to think about what were those steps. So we're just reconnecting over a shared experience, a positive shared experience that we had.
I love that. And integrate neurons that fire together, stay together. So practicing the dance. Yeah, you can go once a week. It's going to take longer to learn if you don't practice it in between. So you get that little bit of practice in, that little bit of closeness and intimacy. It's perfect for well-being. And a shared memory, like, it gives me goosies. It's all that, and they're the little things. But that came from attending the dance class that you've integrated into your life. But if you're just relying on the dance class, then yes, you get value, but you can values add, because connection, experience, memories, intimacy, love, all the inequalities come into play. Persistence, because it's hard. Yeah.
And that would really be a starting point for people today, isn't it? Like to really start to think about, how do you want to be living your life? Like what things do you potentially want to teach your children and that family lifestyle that you guys want,
And for us to make some connection to self, others, and environment, which is creating harmony every day. That's the training model. That's what everything is all about: connection to self, others, and environment.
So beautiful.
We've spoken a lot about the resources that you have, those values cards, and you really have a fantastic range of resources. And one of the books that you've authored is called I Love My Body. What is the aim of that book and the overall message that you wanted to portray in publishing the book?
Okay. I was never writing a book that was a song. It is a famous song in here. I wrote the song. I love my head, I love my nose, I love my knees. So it was a song first for, 10 years. And then one of the mums came out and said, Kerry, that song would make a really nice book. And it stayed with me for a while. And then I thought, I don't know, for some crazy reason, I started looking for a illustrator. I tried to look for an Australian illustrator. I tried a couple, but they were engaged and they had too much work on. So then I found a husband and a wife team to illustrate the book. And I thought, it's meant to be. That took me about 18 months to find that. So to come back to the question, it's for newborns to 8-9-year-olds. I think it's for newborns to 150-year-olds, but that's another story. But it's a mindfulness-based book that shares in a really simple way what our body gives us in a day, from waking to bed, and the seasons. So in summer, spring, autumn, winter, what our actual body gives us with appreciation, and how we can appreciate ourselves, our pets, environment from our body parts. And then I think we have this beautiful opportunity that when we're teaching body parts, we can also, it's the beginning to self-love. So we have this beautiful opportunity, because babies are born not knowing that their limbs are attached to their torso, right? Like, it's crazy to even think. And then we teach them the map of their body, and they get to 12 months or whatever, however, how often you do it, because it's those neurons firing and repetition. So from there, we can add on, your nose helps you smell, or can you smell that with your nose, or just that whole sense of what our nose gives us, or you get to kiss the little kitten or the cat or whatever's in the book. And the illustrations had to tell a story because the words are very simple. It's just a body awareness book. But its body awareness is way more than that when we look at self-love and self-care and appreciation and mindfulness. Our body is just a vehicle to experience life. From this book, I just think on its simplest of terms that every day we wake up to experience life, and we do that through the vehicle of our body. And that is what the book helps children love, loving their body because of what they get to experience. They're allowed to love the look of their body as well. I would like to add that. I actually love how I look, and I'm okay with it. But I do know, for me, deep core of self-love is what I get to do because of my body, what it gives me, hugging people and touch and massaging feet, eating food experiences, the senses, that multi-sensory experience, and bringing self-love into the lens of that in a really simple way.
I love that. I was recently talking to a friend, because we grew up in the early 2000s, and it was a pretty interesting time where celebrities were becoming a really crucial part of what teens and preteens were looking at. And we had folders where we'd cut out our favorite celebrities, and they were all wearing extremely low-rise jeans. They didn't have, a single gram of fat on them. And all of the tabloids, really had just pictures of women's bums with cellulite shaming them. And I have really vivid memories of seeing that. That was just everywhere in the stores. And now thinking that, people my age, millennials, are the majority of new mums, and how tricky it is to grapple with your own body image and identity, but then encourage your children to love themselves. So I think it's a tricky thing for a lot of people, but I obviously reflect on my own generation and, what was in the media at that time. And it was not positive whatsoever. But I really love how you talk about the function. What can our bodies give us? And that's been a journey for me. I think a lot of the body positivity movement, I think it's fantastic, but maybe it can be perceived as very much about the aesthetics rather than
Yes.
what we can use our bodies
That's it.
for.
I love that explanation too. And it's so, I don't know, if we come back to the self-care, then we can experience self-care just through our senses, just through being willing and inviting in that sense of appreciation, or becoming more mindful. That's what I thought when you shared that. I thought, oh, it's so linked. You know, it's still there. I think, you know, my mum was a teen mum, very young when she had me. And I mean, young teen, and mini skirt era. I was born in the 60s. There was no chance I wasn't going to be a yo-yo dieter. No chance that I wasn't. And people my generation, generally when I talk to them, that's what they have experienced. And it's one of the most dangerous things you can do for your health long term. So, you know, it was back then too. It's like it just changes, Kaila, doesn't it? But we can see more support and more movement, yet we're still bombarded too, aren't we? I don't know. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
We are.
Both of
And
you.
I think that that's a real, you know, we are then modeling to our own children about how we talk about our bodies and how we see ourselves and things that they see us do. I know, can only speak from my own experience, but I've never had a flat stomach in my entire life. So when my children say, oh, Mum, you're a bit jiggly, I'm like, I know, because this tummy held all of you guys. And they're like, what? You know, like it just blows their little mind. Like, you were in here and I'm so happy with what I have.
I
And
love
just
that.
trying to, one, it helps me, you know, feel good about myself, but also for them to hear, like, my body is honestly amazing. And, you know, as you get older, the old boobs aren't exactly where they used to be. And I'll say, because I was lucky enough, I got to breastfeed you, and this is how I look now.
I
and
love
I feel
that.
great about that, because you three are the best things that have happened to me.
I love that. And I think, you know, my mum used to jiggle a bum and all sorts of things. We were very comfortable with bodies. And my grandma had diabetes and really big, really protruding belly her whole life. And we loved it, loved her belly, and we'd rub it and all sorts of things and watch her do her diabetes. So, you know, I was fortunate enough to grow up with that as well. But I love how you share that you count. It's like a counter reaction, isn't it? That it could go both ways, that conversation. And we know that sometimes it hurts. We don't have to like parts of our body. And I think we need to get that straight. You know, we don't have to love everything about our body. There are things we can be uncomfortable with in our own body. That's our right. It's not hating on ourselves. It's just the fact at the time, or it may be forever. Who knows? So I have no idea. And then there's parts we absolutely adore. Like, I think I love my nose. I love that. And my mum used to say I have a button nose. So I have that little, and my son has a bit of it. So, and I see it in him and I go, oh, I've got that little nose. So we're allowed to do all that. But I love how you reframed, if we're allowed to say that, but it probably wasn't a reframe for you because you believe it and it's aligned to what you value. So if we bring values back to that, a values-based conversation that you chose, you know that if it went any other way, it could have affected the way they see their own body. So I love that reframe, because I got to have bubbas and I got to, you know, breastfeed. And I remember I was bleeding once and Isaac goes, oh, Mama, am I going to bleed from my penis? Am I allowed to share this on here?
Yeah, I reckon.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, no. That's a woman's right. That I get to do that, because I didn't want him worried, but I wanted to stand in my warrior female power. No, darling, that's a woman's right. You know, that belongs to us. That's our privilege, because I get to have you. He's like, oh, he's so happy, but it could have gone either way. And I just think making those conversations more natural and loving that part of, you know, it could have gone anyway. He was a bit older, so it was a nice, easy conversation to have, and it could have looked different at different ages, of course. You know,
but it's mine. You accepted it, like, no, this is me. Like, I get to do this, and that's that power then that he sees. Oh, she's really proud of who she is. She's like owning this.
This is what, and honoring women. Yeah, honoring
women.
women, looking at women as these amazing things. I wanted him to respect that part of us, not, or she's got PMS, or, you know, that negative self, that talk around it, that he didn't have that. Yeah.
It also really stood out to me when you were talking about seeing your own features in Isaac. What a really beautiful way to think about that as well. How could you think negatively of something that you see on your child?
I know.
So that helps for your own acceptance of your features.
Yeah, it does. And, you know, my son, I see family members in him all the time. You know, we impart these little mannerisms and these beautiful things all the way along, and we can see them in each other. I love that, Kaila.
We've had a really fantastic chat with you today.
I think I could talk to you all day. Like,
Yes.
love it.
I'm very sad to have to wrap it up. But what is your final takeaway for listeners today? You've shared a whole heap of wisdom, but if you just had something final to leave us on, what would you like that to be?
Oh, there's so many things I could probably say. That always, I think, as people and parents or grandparents and caregivers, that we are more than enough for our children. We are more than they could ever, even in our flaws and imperfections. It is all part of the grand plan for our growth. I think that's, for me, a key takeaway is never, ever doubt your goodness and your intention when love and connection in your relationships. Never doubt it. It's there. Even if it's fearful, even if it whatever, or your discomfort, just let your connection and your relationship be at the center of those decisions. And I think after what we've talked about, I think that would be a key takeaway for me.
That's fantastic.
Beautiful.
It reminds me of something that I read on your blog, and it's something that you do through your work, is asking older children to share the strengths of those around them. So
yes,
and I think it's so difficult for us to see our own strengths and positives. We really focus on the negative, and especially new parents where they feel like they're not doing anything adequately because they're still learning how to, you know, do all those parenting behaviors. And it's really a good time to let the important people in your life tell you what your strengths are, and to really try and believe them and accept that and take that on board. In part of trying to feel that love and feeling like you have, that you're enough and that your values are enough for your children, is also to reach out to those around you and really try to take on board what they see in you.
Absolutely. That's what sustains our relationship too.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much again.
Thank you so much.
Fantastic.
Oh, you're welcome.
And
You're
all the
welcome.
best.